think this is kind of loud. They told me the last time they had to keep turning me down, but it's right here beside my mouth instead of down here. I like it that way. But it's good to see you all. It's good to have that meal. That was wonderful. And I'm ready for a nap, and I'll try not to go to sleep up here. But so proud of our young men. I always love seeing them having the opportunity to get up here. They do a good job. I think a lot of times they're capable of a lot more than we think they are. But when this was brought up that we do this, I think it was suggested to me that I kind of speak to the youth. I thought, man, that's a great idea. You know, we just had a wonderful lesson about kind of the age above the youth, the college, and I thought, you know, back to all the times where I thought about, or I've heard sermons where people talk to the young kids, and I cannot think of a single lesson inside a church building. Now, of course, we go to church camps and everything, but it seems like everyone I've ever heard, they have 3 points, and somehow all 3 points are respect your elders, respect your elders, respect your elders. Somehow that's always what they talk about. And even as a self-proclaimed pessimist, I think, man, that's pretty negative. I mean, when you're just kind of looking down on them and saying, well, look, you need to respect us. And of course, that's not what they meant. They were doing it in a good way. But when you look at it from and see things from other people's perspectives, you can see where you probably would want to hear more than that. And I think just about anything you can look at in the world, even when people had miscommunications, when people maybe don't agree as much, a lot of that can it's a lot of times blamed on one way. But I think most of the time it's something where you should meet each other halfway. I'm not saying parents should meet kids halfway, because you make compromises and things are going to not be very good. But at the same time, I'm not a parent by any means. I have a dog, and while Megan treats him like a child, he's not a child. I'm still a little bit younger than most of you, or all of you that have kids. So I'm going to give you the perspective of how kids look at it, I guess, would be the best way I can describe this. And you know, a lot of times, like I said, kids are kind of talked down to a little bit in terms of just respect your elders. And that's a great thing. I keep having to say that. I don't want y'all to get the wrong idea here, but that's what they should be told. But at the same time, we see in Matthew 18 where Jesus is talking to a group of people, and he brings the young child to him and says, unless you become like this child, you will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. A lot of times we kind of look down on younger people and maybe think less of them, or I mean, you've been in the world. You know how people look at each other. But we see here, Jesus says, unless you become like this child, unless you are like this, which says, hey, there's some really good qualities in kids. I mean, you look at a baby, and one of the reasons that a newborn baby is such a beautiful, beautiful thing, there is nothing evil about that child. There is nothing sinful about that child. They have no ego. They have no hatred or anger toward anyone. They are as close to perfect as they will be in their entire life. And that's a beautiful thing to behold. So, you know, you look at kids, and so much of the time, I think people talk a lot about, you know, we're trying to make our kids grow up too quick. And I don't know that I agree with that, but to some extent, I've seen people try to, you know, work qualities out of their kids, and to some extent that needs to happen, but so much of the time it's good qualities that they're trying to work out of their kids. Things like, you know, imagination and things like that, these pure good things that are in kids. There are qualities that kids have that we need to mimic, and I think we always need to remember that, and not to let the teens and the kids get too big of a head. There is the verse that was read for us: children, obey your parents. Respect your elders, for this is pleasing to the Lord. And that's in Colossians 3, and that's absolutely, we should definitely do that. But that doesn't let the parents off the hook either. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And then again, Titus 2:3 and 4, the older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands and love their children. So you see where it says, older folks, train the younger folks. And this is what I mean, where you need to kind of meet each other halfway. This takes two parties. For one, if you are, what Brother Shannon talked about this afternoon, take interest in a kid. Take interest in someone younger. And we are told to be mentors to them. That's a wonderful thing when you can do that. And, I joke with my dad all the time, and I'm glad they're here so I can talk about them and not feel like I'm talking behind their back. But I joke with my dad all the time that he never taught me how to do anything. He just expected me to know how to do it. And then he would fuss at me when I didn't know how to do it. Now, in reality, he probably did teach me how, but I wasn't paying attention. But I have seen that before, where people just expect the kid to know how to do everything they know how to do. But notice it says train. Train up your child. Be an example to them and teach them how to do things. And kids, be smart enough to listen to your parents. They are a lot smarter than you think, and I'm continuing to learn that. You will hear that left, right, and sideways. It's a cliche, and the reason it's a cliche is because it is absolutely true. We kind of talked about this in class this morning, actually, but you hear someone has been through a class that you're about to go to. What do? You say, hey, how was that class? They've experienced it. They know about it, so you want to get their ideas on it. You want to see what they went through, their experiences. You don't go ask the person that has never been through that class. You go ask the person who has. And it's the same thing. You don't need to go ask your friends who have never been through this. You need to go ask your parents or your mentor or someone else and actually listen to what they have to say. And a lot of times, again, that goes both ways. Be careful of the way that you talk to someone. If you are going to them, well, what am I supposed to do here? And blaming them, being mad at them, they're probably not going to want to help you as well. And if you talk down to that person and say, well, dummy, this is what you do, they're probably not going to want to listen to you as well either. And that's the thing. And just about everything in life, it goes two different ways. So, kids, listen to your parents. Parents, train your kids. And then the last thing, I want to be fairly brief this evening, but kids are still developing. And I know I'm guilty of this sometimes, that I expect them just right now, they should be on my level. Why are they not able to do this? Why are they not able to do that? You look at, maybe you've had a teacher throughout school that was so much smarter than you, and they could not understand why you could not get these topics that they're teaching you. And I think sometimes that's how kids might feel. We expect so much of them. But, I looked at this. When I was taught this in school, I was taught that about 24-ish is when the brain stops developing, so I would just have been out of that. And when I did research on this, it actually turns out that it's more like 25 to 30. So my brain very well could still be developing. We're looking at kids whose minds are still developing and expecting them to be on the same level as we are. They have not developed the rational parts of their brain until much later in life. And you look at teenagers, you look at some of the decisions that they make, and they're not very smart. And a lot of the reasons is because they're not making decisions with rationality. They're making decisions with their emotions because their brain is still developing. It's something like, I got to look at it because I forgot exactly how old it is, but it's something like second grade before somebody is actually able to look and see someone else's perspective. I've talked about it before, where you have a bunch of shelves up here and you place things on the shelf and ask the kid, all right, which shelf is the truck in? And they'll point to it. And then you go to the other side and you have backs on some of them, but not all of them. And so basically, whichever side of the shelf you're on, you're seeing different things. And those kids could not comprehend, how is he seeing this? I don't see that anywhere on here. That's not there, because it was covered up on their side. They could not see this other person's perspective. So, you look at this and kids are still developing. So be mindful of those things. And kids, this is something that should be encouraging to you. And even if you're a little bit older, even if you're my age, you're going to get smarter. You're going to get better. You're going to be on the level that your parents are one day. I say this all the time, but the greats started exactly where you are. In whatever field you want to talk about, sports or science or anything, they started where you are right now at one point. And then they got better and better. So you have the opportunity to be better. And also, every time you say something like that, you have to throw in, don't take advantage of that. I ask parents, understand sometimes, don't not get on to them when they do something wrong. I think people get that idea in their head when they hear things like this. Don't get that. But sometimes I think, and again, I'm not a parent. I see some of you and I'm thinking, man, they probably are thinking, what does this kid know? I'm telling you from their perspective, because My parents were getting on to me, yesterday, but that was a whole different thing. But, not really. But I'm coming from their perspective. Give them a break sometime because they're still developing. They're not on the same level that you are. But that being said, it's interesting kind of the juxtaposition. It's a big word I didn't say right. But you see Matthew 18 when it's talking about you cannot be into heaven unless you become like this little child. But then later on in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So there's a time to put away childish things. But there are attributes of a child that we need to have to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And it's up to us to kind of look at those things and figure out what they are, foster the things that need to be there. And as kids and even as parents, I think some of us still, I know I'm still, you can ask Megan, she calls me a teenager all the time, that I'm still doing childish things sometimes. But we need to work to get those out and to foster the good things that get someone into the kingdom of heaven. And I'm going to show my inner nerd here a little bit. And I recently listened through the Harry Potter books, and there was a quote in it, and I actually just stopped it. I was listening to it on the road, and I stopped the CD, and I just sat there and thought about it. I thought, that is very, very intelligent. But it's in Order of the Phoenix for anyone who knows that. But it says, youth cannot know how age thinks and feels, but old men are guilty if they forget what it is like to be young. You look at experience. You have had experience as an adult. You're watching your kids go through those same experiences. And sometimes it is so frustrating because you know what they probably should do, or you know this, you know that, and they don't. Remember, you once were where they were, and your parents were looking at you the exact same way. So remember that and realize that your kids can't see everything that you can see. I think it's hard sometimes for even adults to see the kid's perspective. And the older you get, the longer it's been since you were a teenager. It's just kind of facts there. And I'm just 25 now, but I still have a hard time sometimes remembering what it was like to be in high school and remembering how hard some of those times actually were. And we look at kids and think, man, they don't have anything to worry about. They don't have bills. And that's true. It's a lot more stressful when you get older, I promise. But that doesn't mean what they're going through is any less real and any less stressful for them. Because those are the things that matter to them, because that's their perspective. And it once was your perspective. So with all of that, really, there's three things that I want parents to get out of this and kids to get out of this. And I want to say again, I'm not claiming to be an authority on parenting. I feel like I need to continue to make that clear. I'm coming more from the teenage perspective of that. But for parents, see the good in your kids and foster it. And I knowing the kids here, I don't think anyone is guilty of doing anything other than this. But don't push the good qualities out of them. Train up your child and realize they make mistakes. Realize that their brain is still developing, and sometimes maybe give them a little bit of a break. Maybe don't hold things over their head because they're still developing, they're still getting better. And to the kids, figure out what's good about what you are right now and hold on to it for the rest of your life. Figure out what is you are good at and foster that and become even better at it for when you are an adult and you become the leadership of the church. One of the things that drives me the most crazy in the church today is hearing people say, the teenagers are the future of the church. No, they are the current church. They are the future leaders of the church. So find what you're good at and foster that and become better at it for when you become an adult and become leaders. Also, listen to your parents. They have experience. Again, cliched for a very good reason, because it is very true. And finally, realize that you're going to get better. Realize that you're not fully developed yet. And that was kind of hard. I looked at that, and I tell kids that, and I think that about myself, and I think, man, that's kind of a demeaning thing to say, but when you really look at it, it's not. It's just a fact. You're younger. You're still developing in a lot of different ways, and one of those ways is mentally. You're going to get better. You're going to get smarter. The things that you can't comprehend as easily now are going to come like that to you when you get older. Don't feel dumb. Don't feel little. Understand that you're going to get better. And if your parents give you a break, don't take advantage of that. Know that, even if my brain is still developing, I did something dumb and I need to learn from it. So I said it before, and I feel like I've repeated myself a lot, and I have this afternoon, but it goes two ways. You know, if there's a bad relationship between two people, it's not just one of their faults. You know, as parents, you do some things, and as kids, you do some things. And you're going to get on each other's nerves. You live with each other. You know, I chose to marry Megan because I love her, and she gets on my nerves every single day. And I can promise you it's a lot worse for her. But we live together, so there's going to be that headbutt. You live with your kids, there's going to be headbutts. But understand and try to see some things from each other's perspective. I think that's something that's vastly missing from the world today, is seeing things from other people's perspective. That's something I harp on a lot, because if you can do that, then you can really be able to reach more people. So tonight, or this afternoon, we always offer an invitation anytime that we come together, for the purposes of, if anybody has heard something and they think, man, I'm not doing well with that, they can come and confess that to the church. Or if they have some kind of sin that they would like to confess, and ask for prayers if you're going through a hard time and you need prayers. We're happy to be here for that. And anytime that we have the chance to have someone wash their sins away in baptism, we are very excited for that. And if you have heard the good news of Jesus Christ and would like to do that, we ask that you come now as we stand and sing.